At a corporate meeting held this past July, the head of Volkswagen passenger cars didn't mince words. He told a room of VW managers that the metaphorical roof is on fire. The company had become too complex, slow, and inflexible. They need to cut 10 billion euros of cost over the next 3 years. In September of 2024, Volkswagen Group CEO Oliver Blume revealed that this cost-cutting plan could include shutting down some of the company's factories in Germany. If this happens, it would be a huge deal. In its 87-year history, Volkswagen has never shut down a factory in its home country. But competition today is fiercer than it's ever been in the past, especially from Chinese EV makers, who are now churning out millions of EVs at a far lower cost than what VW can match. In this video, we'll delve into the dire situation Volkswagen finds itself in. We'll also explore what this can tell us about the competitiveness of the German economy. The Volkswagen Group is a massive automobile conglomerate that owns many different brands. The largest brand they own is their namesake Volkswagen brand, which sold 5.3 million cars in 2023. The second biggest is Audi, which sold 1.9 million. Skoda, which sells mass-market cars mostly in Europe, sold 900,000. SEAT sold 500,000 cars. They own a majority stake in the Traton Group, which sold about 300,000 semi-trucks in 2023. They also own a majority stake in Porsche, which sold about 300,000 cars. Finally, they own a few ultra-luxury brands including Lamborghini, Bentley, and Bugatti, which collectively sold about 20,000 cars last year. Adding all of these together, the Volkswagen Group delivered 9.24 million cars to customers worldwide in 2023. Volkswagen is an extremely large and complex organization. To understand Volkswagen's current situation, we must first understand what made them successful in the first place. With VW's large size, they've been able to achieve massive economies of scale. Their factory in Wolfsburg, Germany is the largest automobile assembly plant in the world. Occupying 6.5 million square meters, it is 3 times the size of the country of Monaco. Such a large factory needs a large workforce. It employs 62,000 workers, which is roughly double the population of Monaco. To maximize efficiency and economies of scale, the Volkswagen Group shares parts and reuses designs across many of its brands. If you look at some of the cars made by different brands within the Volkswagen Group, some of them look remarkably similar. Take the examples of the SEAT Ateca and the Skoda Karoq. They're almost identical. The VW Touareg and the Audi Q5 share many parts and also look very similar. This standardization provides a few advantages. Because the parts are shared across many models, Volkswagen can place gargantuan orders to their suppliers. This gives them negotiating leverage and bulk discounts. Secondly, because the cars are so similar, it's relatively easy for them to shift production between different models. This has historically allowed them to operate their factories at very high rates of utilization. The Volkswagen Group has factories around the world. They often assemble the cars in the same countries where they are sold. This avoids tariffs and minimizes transportation costs. 51% of their production capacity is in Europe, most of which is in Germany. About a third of their capacity is in Asia, mostly in China. Finally, they have a few factories in North America, South America, and South Africa. Up until the late 2010s, Volkswagen's strategy worked brilliantly. In 2017, they delivered 10.74 million vehicles to customers around the world. This allowed them to overtake Toyota and become the largest automobile company in the world. However, their time at the top would not last long. Also in 2017, Tesla released the Model 3. Strong demand for the Model 3 proved that consumers were ready, and fully electric vehicles would be the future of the automotive industry. Volkswagen released its first production EV in 2013, the e-Golf. At the time, battery technology was far more primitive than it is today, and the e-Golf only had 83 miles of range. Its sales were minuscule. In 2018, Volkswagen named Herbert Diess to be its new CEO. Diess was a big believer in electric vehicles and decided to bet the company's future on electrification. In 2019, the company announced it would invest 60 billion euros over the next 5 years to start building electric vehicles. By 2029, the group planned to have 75 models of electric vehicles and cumulatively sell 20 million units. This was considered to be the most aggressive electrification plan of any legacy automaker. Indeed, over the next few years, the company spent billions of euros upgrading some of their existing factories to build electric vehicles. In 2021, they began deliveries of their ID.3 electric hatchback, as well as the ID.4 electric SUV. Audi and Porsche also released a number of fully electric models. It looked like DS's plan to turn the company into an EV powerhouse was starting to bear fruit. But there were problems brewing beneath the surface. Herbert Diess was a big admirer of Tesla, not only because of their fully electric cars, but also because of their software and ability to do over-the-air updates. Over-the-air updates can often solve problems that would otherwise require a costly and time-consuming trip to a service center. In addition to the transition to EVs, Volkswagen simultaneously embarked on an ambitious plan to develop new in-car software. In 2019, they founded a new subsidiary called Car-IM Digital, or Car-IAD for short. The goal of Car-IAD was to make an infotainment system in the car that can connect to the internet and receive over-the-air updates. Building this kind of software is surprisingly difficult. The infotainment system needs to communicate with all of the various electronic systems in the car, such as the air conditioning, door locks, seat warmers, speakers, lights, etc. These various electronic systems are purchased from dozens of different suppliers. Getting them to all talk to each other can be a challenge. Despite investing billions of euros into Car-IAD, Volkswagen software is widely considered to be extremely bad. One of the most prominent critics of Volkswagen software is a YouTuber who goes by the name of E for Electric. He bought an ID4 in 2021, almost as soon as it launched. In October of 2022, he published a video entitled "VW Abandons ID4 Drivers as Software Issues Grow." He explained numerous grievances that he had with the car's software. The infotainment system takes a long time to connect to your phone. Sometimes the audio randomly dies. Sometimes the screen randomly goes blank while he's driving. The backup camera will randomly stop working. The tire pressure monitor is faulty. The persistent software issues made the car almost unusable. To add insult to injury, Volkswagen previously sponsored his channel, paying him tens of thousands of dollars to promote the ID4. But eventually, the issues with the car got so bad that he could no longer hold his silence. While Volkswagen has almost 100 years of experience in designing and manufacturing automobiles, they have very little experience in developing software. In the summer of 2022, Herbert Diess was fired as CEO. The board of directors lost confidence in him, mostly due to the epic failure of the Car-IAD software subsidiary. He was replaced by Oliver Blume, who previously served as the CEO of Porsche. Blume decided that Volkswagen didn't have to develop its software capabilities on its own. In 2023, the company invested $700 million into the Chinese EV startup XPeng. In 2024, they signed a deal to invest up to $5 billion in the American EV startup Rivian. As part of these deals, Volkswagen gained access to much of XPeng and Rivian's software and related intellectual property. Both XPeng and Rivian are considered to have far better software than Volkswagen. If we look at the Volkswagen Group's worldwide vehicle deliveries, it peaked in 2019 at almost 11 million. In 2020, their number of deliveries decreased to 9.3 million. This decline can largely be attributed to the pandemic. Even after the pandemic ended, VW's deliveries barely recovered. In 2023, they delivered 9.24 million vehicles. This is still 16% below 2019 levels. In 2023, the Volkswagen Group delivered 1.7 million fewer cars than it delivered in 2019. It's interesting to look at the breakdown by region. There was a decrease of 300,000 in Central and Eastern Europe. Russia used to be a major market for Volkswagen. Following the invasion of Ukraine, public pressure and government policies made it impossible for VW to continue operating in Russia. This was beyond Volkswagen's control and largely explains the decrease in Central and Eastern Europe. What's much more concerning is the decline of about 500,000 deliveries in Western Europe and a decline of 1 million deliveries in China. Let's start off with China. With roughly 30 million new cars sold each year, China is the largest automobile market in the world by far. Historically, homegrown Chinese car brands suffered from notoriously poor quality. Up until 5 or 10 years ago, Chinese car companies didn't have the expertise to build high-quality cars with good reliability. This created a massive opportunity for foreign automobile companies. Volkswagen has been operating in China since 1985 through a joint venture with the state-owned auto giant SAIC. Most of the vehicles VW sells in China are manufactured in China via the joint venture. China has historically been one of VW's most important markets. In 2019, they sold 4.2 million cars in the country, or almost 40% of their global deliveries. The competitive landscape in China has changed drastically over the past few years. Dozens of EV startups have popped up, making high-performance, attractive-looking cars. Think of the likes of BYD, NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, and many others. Chinese consumers especially value high-tech features in their cars. Knowing this, the Chinese EV startups invested heavily in software, assisted driving, and other miscellaneous high-tech features. In most cases, the software in new Chinese EVs is far superior to Volkswagen. A combination of innovation and government subsidies has allowed Chinese EV startups to sell their cars at very cheap prices. For example, XPeng recently released a new electric sedan called the Mona MO3, which starts at the equivalent of $17,000 US. Thanks to the massive selection of affordable EVs, as well as the government incentives for buyers, the Chinese automobile market has electrified at extraordinary speed. As of May of 2024, approximately 40% of new vehicle sales in China are fully electric. The growth of domestic EV startups has come at the expense of Western auto giants including Volkswagen. Since 2019, VW's deliveries in China have fallen by 24%. In addition to their sales collapsing in China, Volkswagen is also seeing significant declines on its home turf in Western Europe. In 2023, they delivered 3.3 million cars in Western Europe, a 13% decline compared to the 3.8 million cars they delivered in 2019. This is not just a problem for Volkswagen. In recent years, new vehicle sales in Europe have been sluggish in general. In 2023, there were 10.5 million new vehicle registrations across the EU. This is 19% lower than the 13 million new vehicles registered in 2019. Many European countries are facing economic difficulties due to a combination of high inflation, increases in interest rates, and a reduction in the supply of natural gas from Russia. As household budgets are stretched, many Europeans are holding off on purchasing a new car. Even as the EU automobile market is shrinking, VW is losing market share to Tesla. According to new car registration data, Tesla sold just 19,000 cars in the EU in 2018. By 2023, this had increased to 330,000. While the Volkswagen Group has released a number of electric vehicle models over the past few years, as we discussed earlier, they are plagued by software issues and aren't terribly popular with consumers. After growing strongly in 2021 and 2022, Volkswagen's EV sales have largely stagnated in 2023 and 2024. Fully electric vehicles currently represent about 8% of the group's total vehicle sales. While the Volkswagen Group does not disclose profitability of its electric vehicles, it is widely believed that they are losing money. One of the reasons for this is poor manufacturing efficiency. In 2021, transcripts from an internal Volkswagen meeting were leaked to the media. According to VW's internal estimates, it takes Tesla approximately 10 hours to assemble a Model 3. It takes Volkswagen approximately 30 hours to assemble the similarly sized electric ID.3. These numbers aren't necessarily directly comparable, as Tesla may have more workers working on each car. But Tesla is clearly far ahead of Volkswagen in terms of assembling EVs. Volkswagen's factories were originally designed to assemble internal combustion engine vehicles. They were retrofitted to make EVs after the fact. Tesla, on the other hand, designed its factories from the ground up to only build electric vehicles. This has resulted in far greater efficiency. To make matters even worse for Volkswagen, many Chinese EV companies have recently started to sell cars in Europe. As of 2023, Chinese cars only have about 3% market share in Europe, but this number is quickly increasing. The European Union is considering tariffs against Chinese EVs, which could protect Volkswagen, at least in the short to medium term. Economies of scale are great when you can operate at max capacity, but if there is insufficient demand, your factories will be underutilized, and your fixed costs will be absorbed across a smaller number of cars. Volkswagen's leadership fears that at the current trajectory, the company's profits could soon collapse. In September of 2024, the company revealed that it's considering closing some of its factories in Germany. Group CEO Oliver Blume explained, quote, "The European automotive industry is in a very demanding and serious situation. The economic environment became even tougher, and new competitors are entering the European market. Germany in particular as a manufacturing location is falling further behind in terms of competitiveness," unquote. This came as a shock to VW's unionized workforce, as well as the German public in general. This would be the first time in the company's 87-year history that they close a plant in Germany. As a quick history lesson, Volkswagen was founded shortly before the Second World War. During the war, it transitioned to producing military vehicles. In the last year of the war, their factory suffered significant damage from Allied bombing. Despite this, production never stopped. Following the end of the war, it was taken over by the Allies and made light cars for use by the British occupation authorities. VW's original factory in Wolfsburg, Germany has been continuously operating to this day. Volkswagen used to be viewed as a symbol of Germany's industrial and technological prowess. If they start shutting down factories, this will be a huge psychological blow for the country. With that being said, their flagship plant in Wolfsburg is probably safe. Volkswagen operates 10 different factories in Germany. They'll probably close 2 or 3 of the smaller ones. In a statement, CEO Oliver Blume specifically called out Germany's lack of competitiveness. Germany is a rich country with high wages. The Volkswagen Group already operates factories in Poland, Slovakia, and other Eastern European countries which have significantly lower labor costs. Because these countries are in the EU, they don't need to worry about tariffs. Volkswagen may shift some manufacturing from Germany to Eastern Europe. While the Volkswagen Group is certainly facing difficulties, it's important not to overstate them. They are still the second largest automobile maker in the world. In the first half of 2024, they generated an operating profit of 10 billion euros, and there are some reasons to be optimistic about the future. In 2023, Volkswagen spent $700 million to buy a 5% stake in the Chinese EV maker XPeng. As part of this agreement, Volkswagen will license much of XPeng's software and electrical architecture. Volkswagen cars using XPeng software will be launched in China in 2026. This will hopefully help to stabilize their market share in China. They signed a similar, albeit much more expensive deal with Rivian in 2024. Volkswagen will invest up to $5 billion into Rivian over the coming years, also in exchange for access to Rivian software and electrical architecture. They plan to release new EVs in the US with Rivian software in 2026. Volkswagen has always been a world-class manufacturer of automobiles. There are very few complaints about the design or build quality of the cars themselves. Their partnerships with XPeng and Rivian will hopefully allow them to solve their long-standing software issues. If so, there's every reason to believe that Volkswagen will play an important part in the electric vehicle industry for decades to come. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. What do you think about Volkswagen? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Wall Street Millennial, signing out.